The surprise cancellation of Transformers Animated left many unanswered questions regarding the show's lore and the show's production. And it's about time someone finds answers. Welcome to TFA Mysteries. Transformers Animated is considered by God to be the best show in the Transformers franchise, and possibly human history. It has not a single useless character, all of whom were well written, as well as absolutely brilliant storylines with build-ups and payoffs. However, one common note I've heard across the fandom is that as the storylines got better, the actual animation got worse.
Ironically, the animation. Somehow it manages to slowly degrade over the course of the show. Like, the animation starts off pretty decent, and while it never gets bad, there is a noticeable lack of frames, movement, animation as the show goes on.
That's the only example I could find, but if Paperplane said it, then you know it's true. As someone who spent a decent amount of time watching the show, I can tell you that there's definitely truth to this claim. While the average action scene in Season 1 looks like this, the average action scene in Season 3 looks like this.
Hey, no fair!
Season 1 generally tended to look fluid and detailed like this. Season 3 didn't. In fact, the show clearly peaked with Home is Where the Spark Is and Thrill of the Hunt. Season 1 episodes 4 and 7 respectively. The quality strangely dipped from there, before arguably plateauing after Transwarped. But why? What specific factors led to the perceived slow decline of the quality of animation? To find answers, I arguably risked my life on a dangerous mission. It's finally time to reveal that story. September 12th, 2020 was a nice, warm day. I say warm because 1/3 of my state was in the process of burning down. I was DMing my compatriot, Alex Cabrera, known as Glorious720p on YouTube, and on Instagram as TF Papercraft. We were having our daily, in-depth conversation about Transformers Animated, talking about how the accidental Cosmos colored like brawn should get a solo film, and more relevantly, discussing if the show's original storyboards were drawn in Japan or the US. Earlier that day, I'd watched an interview with Phineas and Ferb producer Robert F. Hughes, where he states that he can identify the individual animator from every single shot of Phineas and Ferb.
I could look at any frame in 4 seasons of Phineas, and I could tell you who boarded that scene based on the translation of how the animator interpreted the storyboard.
We briefly discussed if Derek J. Wyatt, Transformers Animated's art director, might be that knowledgeable, but I soon realized while looking through the credits that the animation wasn't done in-house, but rather by a studio in Japan. The studio was called Mook Animation. I soon thought about something. The episode Headmaster has this wonderful pastel look to a lot of scenes. Why would this episode look different? I looked it up, and that's when I realized that a different studio was responsible for Headmaster, the Answer Studio. Alex and I began comparing various different episodes that shared this pastel-y style. Megatron Rising Part 2, Rise of the Constructicons, and Auto Boot Camp, for example. Just thinking about it, the difference between these two studios was quite apparent. Mook tended to stay strictly on model, which led to stiffness. Answer Studio pushed expression and posing, but their drawings were less accurate. In the Mook episodes, every line is straight and self-contained. Answer Studio has frayed lines, almost as if it was drawn with a crayon. I made a wild guess that the Answer Studio wasn't involved in Season 3 at all, because I couldn't remember their style being present in that season. I was fascinated and decided to actually research this. I found that Mook and Answer Studio were the only two studios involved in the episodes of Transformers Animated. They traded off roughly every other episode. In addition, my theory was confirmed. Answer Studio had entirely departed the series after Season 2, giving Mook full reign over Season 3. But why? In search of answers, I did the only thing I could. I tweeted at the Transformers Animated art director, Derek J. Wyatt. If you're at all familiar with this man's Twitter, you know that he is not to be trifled with. If you annoy him or ask him too many questions, he will respond ever so slightly sarcastically. A clear indication that he isn't eager to answer the question, and he's only doing so reluctantly. Getting a super light but still polite roast as a response from Derek J. Wyatt is the kind of thing that would keep a man up at night. In addition, he's vaguely, indirectly roasted this channel in the past.
More shattered glass designs would be incredibly useful to the guy running that Season 4 YouTube channel. I'm certainly not doing it for that.
You've been living rent-free in my head for far too long.
One more slightly annoyed remark from him would be the end of me. This would be the most dangerous thing I've ever done. Side note, by the way, have you seen any of the Ben 10 videos where the entire comment section is just like 12-year-olds attacking Derek J. Wyatt? Like, kiddos, you can't blame the story decisions on the art director. Derek is cooler than all of you combined. Which is why I fear him. Truly, powerful man. Many have speculated him to be the second coming. I had to tread carefully. I spent several minutes crafting the perfect question. Not too long, but not too short. It couldn't be wildly unprofessional, but I had to have a ring of self-assertive confidence to it. If I was too pushy in asking the question, he'd brush me off. I had to be casual, but non-casual enough to let him know that I meant it. I thought about my family, who would die if he left me a sarcastic response. I was doing this for them. I was doing this for us. If I failed, my entire future was over. My dreams would be shattered. Anyways, I hit send. Maybe an obscure question, but do you remember why the Answer Studio Co. was dropped from Transformers Animated Season 3? Alex and I nervously had a casual conversation about Studio 4C, the company that did the animated shorts. But my heart wasn't in it. It was pounding, racing. So much sweat was dripping down that I single-handedly could have put out the wildfires.
Residents being told to leave immediately.
Everything was on the line. Hours passed. Maybe 10 minutes. It was 10 minutes. That's when it happened. The weird little Twitter noise thing that you get when Twitter things happen on Twitter, like the doo-doo, you know, doo-doo. Yeah, that thing, yeah. So I pulled out my phone. I could not believe my eyes. It was a reply from Derek J. Wyatt, the art director of Transformers Animated, and a bunch of other shows that aren't the basis of religions. I had an answer.
They did great stuff early on, but ultimately they couldn't keep up with the schedule.
This explains why the Answer Studio departed, but not why Season 3 was such a dip in quality. Mook did excellent work in the first 2 seasons, and even transwarped. My mind wheels began spinning about, and I made a connection. If Answer Studio was overworked with 6 to 7 episodes in a season, how did Mook feel about 13 episodes? Fueled with a new sense of purpose and resolve, I sent a follow-up tweet putting my thoughts into a question. Interesting, a lot of fans have noticed that the animation started to degrade a bit in mid-season 3. Was that in turn a consequence of Mook getting overworked? I sent it. It went whoop, that little noise, you know. So, I looked up tweet sent sound effect multiple times, and I even tried making some tweets to get the, but apparently there's just no tweet sent sound effect, so I mandala affected that. It's not real. There's no whoosh, but there should be. That's stupid. Then I paused. I had the gall to insult the visual quality of his show. The series that he poured his heart and soul into. What had I done? Well, what insult was coming back my way? Would a revenge if you will Derek J. Wyatt kill my dog? This is what happens when I let one comment from a Paperplane video sit in my head for months, rent-free. I thought about that time I humiliated myself in a tweet I made to Jeremy Levy, the voice actor for Cyberverse Bumblebee. Actually, no, I think that hadn't happened yet. No, that was November. Anyways, Derek replied, and he said possibly.
Possibly.
It was over. No more responses were necessary. I was far too nervous for a follow-up thank you, so I then ghosted him. Thank you, Derek J. Wyatt, I love you. There we have it. After years of speculation from all members of the fanbase, probably, we have a solid answer as to why Transformers Animated went from this to this. The Transformers rollout 3-parter was covered by Mook. When a 13-episode first season was greenlit on top of Transformers rollout, the Answer Studio was hired to alternate with Mook doing 7 of the additional episodes. They came out swinging with Home is Where the Spark Is, which is truly the best looking episode of the show. They carried this momentum into Thrill of the Hunt, but eventually they began to crack under the stress. By season 2, they were severely overworked. Their artistic touches weren't even particularly noticeable by the end of their run. They opted out of the Transformers animated series. However, rather than adding a new studio, Mook became the sole studio responsible for Transformers Animated. And after coming out strong during Transwarped, it wasn't long until they began to wear down as well. It seems like they really pulled up the reins during Decepticon Air and beyond, but the slow decline from Three's a Crowd to Human Error Part 2 is distinctly noticeable if you look for it. Human Error Part 1 is likely the worst animated episode of the show, although to Mook's credit, it looks better than the best episodes of Armada. Would another studio have been hired for the show's 4th season? Would the Answer Studio have returned? Or would Mook have maintained the reins, and would the animation quality have declined even further? At that rate, by Megatron Must Be Destroyed, the show wouldn't even be called Transformers Animated anymore. It'd just be called Transformers Although this mystery is solved, there's still many more questions. In the time since writing the script for this episode, I've done some more research into Mook and Answer Studio. Mook was not an insignificant company. They're responsible for animating some pretty significant projects such as X-Men Evolution and those straight-to-DVD Scooby-Doo movies from the late 90s. They have worked on a lot of projects spanning 30 years, and their very final project was Transformers Animated. That had a minor role in something from 2010, but it's worth considering that Hasbro may have overworked this small animation studio to the point of closure. Maybe I'll return to this someday to figure out what happened to Mook Animation. But for now, we've answered the question we set out to answer. Why did Transformers Animated's animation degrade? As for Derek J. Wyatt and I had a newfound confidence in my ability to tweet at him. I jokingly sent him a tweet asking if Sorry Sumdak could pass a CAPTCHA test. He didn't reply. I'm sure he laughed. I also asked him why Blitzwing's back looked different in A Bridge Too Close Part 1. He couldn't remember. And then later, he retweeted my tweet. So if you can't tell, Derek J. Wyatt and I are best friends. Move over, Alex. Derek and I have never been closer. Well, that's the end of this story. I solved a long pondered mystery that, let's be real, no one pondered. Famous YouTuber Paperplane just alluded to it once. What TFA mysteries should I solve next? If you have an idea, please comment down below. If you liked this video, like it, subscribe it. I'm shooting to reach 10,000 subscribers around June, and you could help. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, but don't follow me in real life, because stalking is a felony. I don't know if that's true, I'm not gonna look it up. Thank you to my Patreon supporters: Carly Gay, Chris Galucci, Adam Nicholson, Ish, Ali Alrai, Chris P3, and Danny Can. And they'll have already seen this video, because I release videos a week early on Patreon. Stay safe out there, friends. Stay safe. Paperplane, please collab with me.